What's up, beautiful people? This is Kyle Kraft with Kraft Consulting and CEO of the Sales Accelerator. I am putting this training together because over the last 7 years, I have taken on high ticket sales as sort of my life's passion. And, I've learned a lot in that time. And one of the big issues, maybe you're experiencing this now, is it's getting harder to book calls. It's harder for people to say yes. They come in guarded. They don't want to tell you what's really going on, and it's caused the sales industry as a whole to really take a sort of high pressure approach, manipulative tactics, ways that just don't align with building good relationships. And prior to getting into sales, I ran a brick and mortar fitness gym. And the hardest thing for me was having a sales process, just kind of that I had gotten from a third party source. I didn't know anything about business when I started 20 years ago. And using that and, using scripts and using some of the tactics that maybe you're using today. And it felt completely incongruent with how I was building relationships with them in the actual coaching program, right? Because when you're helping people with fitness, for example, you're asking them to make changes in big areas of their life. For example, if I ask someone to change how they eat with nutrition, well, they may have hesitancy there. Maybe the foods that they currently eat are linked to like their history. It's an ethnic thing. Maybe they have a certain flavor profile that they prefer. There could be a ton of different elements, a billion reasons why they don't want to change. And if I just come in and say, literally try to cram food down their throat that they don't want to eat, they ain't going to do it for long term, right? And so they're ultimately not going to get the results they need. They're not going to be successful. So as a coach, you have to really align yourself with them. You have to build relationships first. And what I've done now is over the last 7 years, kind of going through tons of training programs, all sorts of sales coaches, I have realized that the most important thing is to be able to build that relationship on that sales journey just like you will in a coaching application, right? Or in a consulting application. Because if it's incongruent, if you are acting one way on the front side of your business and then you flip to be someone else, inherently they don't trust you. So what I've put together here, these are the things that I've sort of distilled down from my experience. Again, over the last 3 years, done over $4 million in high ticket sales for some of the accounts I've been on, and now launching my venture to bring it to you, my trusted audience. And there are really 5 shifts that you can use to help kind of guide your buyers versus sort of direct them and make them do things right in a sales process, that you can really lead them to purchasing premium offer coaching packages or whatever it is you're selling. And you don't have to use hard selling. You don't have to use discounts, and it doesn't have to be a very lengthy sales cycle. It can happen very, very quickly if you have the right structure in place. And so even if you've been on the revenue roller coaster for years, even if you've had this business and you're starting to doubt yourself like I had in the past, right? Because maybe just the tactics you're using aren't working, you're not getting people across the line. I want to share this with you because these are some of the most powerful models that I have uncovered that have now brought my brand new business in the last 6 months. We're at a 90% closing rate, and we've done over 6 figures in the first 2 months. And so now we've done just around $300,000 in 6 months. Okay, and that's just me, one-man business, no VAs, nothing like that. And I'm just simply working in a hybrid model of one-to-one and group coaching. So, it's been a very manageable process, and this is something that can truly supercharge your business. If you're a small business owner and yet you want to have massive profits, you want to have a very premium offer, and you want to know how to actually bring your value into the hands of the people that need it most so you can change their lives. But right now you're sitting at a place where you're like, your heart's sinking because you're just not able to get people into the program and get the value into them. Let me help you, okay? So these are really the 5 shifts that I've made, and I'm going to go a little bit quicker because I know you guys are all busy. So if you have any questions on this, you can always shoot me either a DM in Facebook at XFitWarrior, and you can always shoot me an email, kyle@craftconsulting.co, okay? So as we dive in here, guys, the first thing you have to understand, the first shift, okay? If you've ever read the book Crucial Conversations, which is a book about having hard conversations, right? Which sales conversations can be. They don't always have to be, but most often they are. And it's simply because people, they are stuck in their ways, right? They're conditioned certain ways their whole life. And sort of that way of being, thinking, and acting has brought them up to where they are today. And so when you're in a sales call, one of the hardest things that I find is people who, they make the fool's choice. They feel that They either have to just be really nice and not like challenge the prospect to think differently or to see things differently. And by doing that, by just being nice, right? Like the prospect doesn't get any value. They don't have any insight. They don't have any shifts. They don't have any new hope to hang on to actually make the changes in their life they need to get where they're going, right? And so the other side of it is, well, then you could just argue with them, right? You can just argue and you can beat them down. And this is kind of the old style school of selling, is just kind of like making people feel stupid sorts of things. And that doesn't work either, because now you're setting up a relationship with that person, even if they buy, that they're never really going to trust you, and they don't feel responsible for the decision, right? And so they can come back and blame you or ask for a refund and those sorts of things. And that's not what we want either. So the first place we want to start, if I can zoom in here, is going to be, number one, it starts with you, okay? And you want to embody being a trusted guide. Now, the difference between a trusted guide and someone who's like directing, okay, is a trusted guide is there for the client's benefit, even if it doesn't make a sale, okay? And so a couple of keys with this is your goal is to really find the real problem, okay? What's going on based on what they're telling you. You want to guide them to establishing that real problem using questions, reframes, analogies, and metaphors. And in the back of your mind, the most important thing you're doing is building a case for them. Well, why can they be successful? And why would they be a great person to use your products and services to actually get where they're going? And so there's really kind of a triangle approach to this. It's like the trifecta of being a trusted advisor or a trusted guide. And the first one's going to be, you want to be relaxed, detached, respectful. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, have you ever hopped into like a used car lot, right? Are those guys relaxed? No, they are fired up. And instantly you kind of feel like a guard come up. Okay, and so as we move through all 5 of these shifts, I want you to think about thinking like the buyer. Put yourself in their shoes, and how would you respond if someone came to you overly enthusiastic? Like, is that how you meet people in a bar? Is that how you make new friends when you're out at a park? No, like it's very calm, it's very neutral, it's very relaxed, and we want to be the same. So we come in relaxed, we're detached in the sense that we don't need the sale, right? We're there to help them, and we're respectful. Okay. Now, going back to that fool's choice of either arguing or being kind, right? The third option that most is elusive to most people is you can be respectful while also challenging people. And that is what we call being kind, all right? And so this is the first tip of the spear in terms of being that trusted guide, is you come in relaxed, detached, respectful. Number 2, clarity, curiosity, and certainty. You want to embody clarity, meaning that, again, as a trusted expert in whatever it is you're selling, you should be able to listen to the things they're telling you and move them closer to clarity as to what's causing those problems. That's the first thing that will raise your authority more than anything else and start to form you as the expert in their mind, someone that they can trust. And in doing so, they actually want to share more with you. The second piece is curiosity. Now, this is massive, because if you can stay curious no matter what they tell you, you can stay in a sales call forever. Right? Because if you never turn to anger, if you never turn to battling someone, if you never turn to arguing with them, if you just remain curious and calm and detached, well, they would be open to continue sharing with you. It's just a conversation at that point, okay? The last one is certainty. At the point that you know you can actually help them, even if they don't ever buy, you never let go of that frame. You always hold on to the fact that you know you can help them. And so that is the second piece of this trifecta. Now, the third one is going to be insightful, pointed, and intentional. Insightful meaning they are coming to the call. The biggest problem I see is that salespeople look at leads and prospects as if they're coming to a sales call to buy something. That's not what they're doing. Again, if we flip the script and we look at what is a buyer doing on that call, they're there to get new information. And so insightful really means, as the expert you are, being able to teach them something they didn't know. Because the reason they have the problem they have, again, is based on their history of how they've been thinking, how they've been making decisions. And if you can teach them something they don't know, that's what can solve their problem, well, then it's a no-brainer. But they're coming for that insight, not for the sale. The sale is a byproduct of that. Second piece is pointed, right? You have direction. You know where you're moving them to. There's order and there's logic behind the way that you're moving through that sales structure. And they understand and they begin to trust because you're helping them through that pointed, directed trajectory, knowing, okay, I'm trusting this person more and more because it makes more sense why they're asking the questions they're asking. The last one is going to be intentional, right? And this means that for you, this is how you set yourself apart from being manipulative, right? Because manipulators will do anything and it's always self-serving. But people who are there in active service, they're there to help. So we always maintain that active help, even if they blow up in our face, even if they call us stupid, whatever happens, we remain intentional, we remain curious, we remain relaxed and detached. So that is the first shift. If you are not already looking at being a sales pro in this way, this is the first shift that changes everything else. Okay? The second one, the second shift you have to make is leverage change behavior decision making. Okay? So the biggest problem I see, let's start down here. The biggest problem I see in most sales structures today, the wrong way to do it, okay, is they start with their product. They start with, hey, we have this amazing XYZ thing. It's going to solve all these things for you, right, as a solution. And then they start to try to ask, once they've kind of shown all their cards, about like what's going on with that prospect. What are they experiencing? And at that point, because they've felt sold to, right, there was no pre dug out context for that product to land upon, for that prospect to know that, hey, this can actually help solve something. Well, it just feels salesy. So they put up a ton of guards, and now they're not willing to actually share with you what's going on, which makes it impossible for them to get clarity on what the real problem is. Okay? And so the biggest shift is understanding, how do people actually make decisions to make a change in their life? All right? Because when you sell, you break rapport. When you educate them, you build it. And so the way that we want to think about helping people advance through a sales process, okay, is number one, we have to be able to understand what are all their symptoms. If I go back to the fitness thing, if they were to tell me, hey, my clothes don't fit, I have no energy, I wake up tired, I'm lethargic all day, and then when I try to go to bed, I'm still awake, right? Those are a bunch of symptoms. But if I can help them get clarity on, well, the real problem is you don't have resistance training consistently. You don't have the right custom nutrition plan based upon your needs, preferences, and blood type. And you also don't have the habits in place consistently that support those things, getting you the weight off, feeling better, getting your energy back so your clothes fit, right? Like if you are the one who is able to give them that clarity, okay, what you experience is now they automatically assume you're the expert. You're automatically the authority. You're automatically someone they can trust. And so the whole key in what we call lead activation within the Sales Accelerator program is you guys have thousands of leads. You just can't see them. And the reason is because only the top 3% in any industry of prospects are looking to buy right now. And it's in the ability to move somebody from their symptom state, meaning they only are aware of their symptoms, to this real problem. That is how you now immediately kickstart the sales process. And so it's being able to have a structure that allows for you to elicit the symptoms, that then gives you the opportunity to create clarity, and now you're their expert and guide. And once you do that, well, now the rest of the process is fairly simple, doesn't it seem? Right? If I know that my problem is my real problem is that I'm not doing resistance training, have a custom nutrition plan, and don't have the habits in place, well, now I know what I need to do, right? And all you have to do at that point is show them a product that fulfills on that solution. So that is the way that you can leverage change behavior decision making in a sales structure to actually activate every lead possible, get them qualified, and have them advance based on the things they're experiencing. All right? Number three is understanding that problems drive process, very much like we just went through, okay? But this is a little bit deeper. And so if you think like a buyer, okay, because again, like for example, when you are cold calling somebody, cold calling has a bad rap, but it's just because people are using that old structure. You need to know how someone is thinking in a cold call to actually be able to make a sale. And so the first thing is understanding, okay, like the right ingredients done in the wrong sequence do not get the result, right? So if I call them up and I say, hey, I've got this amazing product, we've helped a ton of people in your area, would you like to give me just 2 minutes and I can explain it to you? They're going to say no, because it sounds like a sale, because you sound like everybody else, because they don't have any context for that problem to land on, okay? So the first thing you have to understand is what's this order of questions that your buyers are asking or your cold calling prospects. Number one is, why should I pay attention, right? Why is this relevant to me, right? And if you can start, and again, this is a little bit maybe more than you need, but you can see the sequence here, right? There's really 2 parts to breaking this down. If I'm cold calling, I'm doing the act of setting a sales call, right? On that sales call is where I do my closing. And the way this breaks down is the first question we have to ask them and answer in their mind, is why is this relevant? Well, if we start by simply outlining the real problems that we solve and the symptoms associated with it, and ask them, and then we talk about what solutions we have that solve those things, and then we simply ask them if that's relevant to them, well, now they can say yes or no. And if they say yes, we've answered the first question. Yes, that is relevant to me. Thank you for calling, right? And it's a completely different experience. The next question we have to they're asking is going to be, well, what is the next thing that solves this, right? What's the actual sort of product or solution for this, okay? And so as we're moving through this, and I want you to think about this number line 1 through 10 as like the steps to a sale, right? Where down at 1, 2, and 3, like these people don't have a lot of clarity. They're very cold, right? They don't understand a lot. And up here is where they're giving you cash and you're making the money, all right? And so the question sequence again is, why is this relevant? What can I do about it? Who is going to help me with this? And then the final question is when, right? Is it now or is it later? Okay? And the further along you get someone on this line, the higher probability that the closing call, the sales call, is actually going to convert. And so the goal of setting is to be able to answer as many of these questions for the prospect as possible and get them as far down the line as you can before setting that sales call. The closer then has a much higher chance. If that setter gets them to an 8, right, they have a much higher chance of closing than if you're booking someone for a sales call who's only at a 2, okay, if these questions haven't been answered. And so the setting process really, again, the things you're dealing with here is you're interrupting them, right? They need to know, is this relevant? And we have to build their curiosity around the problems they have so that they advance further. In that phone call, when we set that sales call, now we have an opportunity over here, right, to start with heart, right? What is the actual goal that they want, right? What are the pains that they are moving away from? And are they ready to take action and be courageous and actually do what they need to do, okay? And that is the closing call in essence. But I want you to just step back from everything I said for a second and understand problem drives process. And the problem is what we break down in terms of the answer to each one of these questions. Why would this matter for me? Well, do you have these problems? What can I do about it? Well, here are solutions we've seen work for people similar to you. Who should I trust, right? And as you go through that process like we showed earlier, you're building trust, you're building authority, you're building respect because you're asking the right questions in the right way, in the right order. And then they ask, well, when? And you can help them do that by understanding, well, what do they really want and what do they no longer really want, and help them balance those scales. So that is the third element I think is so critical, because so often people just do not understand that it's all about moving your prospects down this line. Number 4 is allow your client to uncover the gap. Okay, I'm going to go quick because we're almost at 20 minutes, but allow your client to uncover the gap. What I mean by this is there's 4 corners to a sale. Any sales script you've ever seen, I guarantee has all these elements in it. And if you boil it all down, there's 4 corners. These arrows represent the corners, okay? Once a problem's been established, the next thing you need someone to express, right? Not you tell them, but have them express is what's the finish line. And the finish line is, if they were to solve this problem, what does it look like? What's tangible? Again, going back to fitness, it's not I want to feel better, right? But the tangible outcome there would be, excuse me, I want to lose 20 pounds. When they hit 20 pounds off, problem solved. The next thing though, and this is where most people stop, the key in building a big enough gap that elicits a premium offer, because again, if you are solving a major life problem for somebody, a bleeding neck issue as it were, you deserve to get paid for that. You deserve to get the value out of it. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm guessing you're someone who's put in hundreds, if not thousands of hours into your craft, into mastering it, into being the best you possibly can. It's like, who's really getting the better end of the deal here? Because time you never get back. And all they have to do is pay one time. They solve the problem. They didn't have to go through that entire journey. That's why you're the guide, okay? And so instead of just stopping at the finish line, we need them to understand, well, what's the promised land? And the promised land is really everything that becomes possible for them once they've solved that. Because if they aren't clear on that, right? If they just stop at the finish line, it's a very short distance, okay, in terms of that gap. So we need to keep building it. Once they understand what becomes possible, then we need to have them understand what is the future impact of their current trajectory. Meaning if they were to make no changes and they just kept moving forward, what's actually going to happen there? And so a lot of times people, they focus on the risk of making a change, right? Or investing in themselves and taking a leap forward. But they very rarely inspect the actual costs of staying where they are. And so that's why this is so important, because if they can contrast that promised land with the future impact of staying the same, that is the biggest gap possible. And all you have to do from there, the last corner to turn, is you get them across the execution barriers, meaning as an expert, once they're clear on those things, you can lay out your plan of action for them on how they can solve it. And now you simply help them tick off what are the barriers to them actually taking action on that plan. Okay? That's the four corners to every sale, how you get the biggest gap possible so you can charge a premium price. And lastly is going to be our shift number 5. Once that happens, you want to cement their belief and cement the actions they're taking by having put them in a position of leadership. And we do that through a referral process. And a referral process is nothing more than understanding what are the emotional benchmarks your client goes through throughout your journey. So I use this for my brick and mortar gym as this is the example, but you can craft this and cut it up any which way for whatever business you have. So if someone calls in, right, I can ask and put them in a position of leadership there for a referral by saying, who do you want to come with you, right? If they come in for their first workout and then I make a sale for a membership, well, I can tell them, hey, it's more fun and you're likely to stay with it for the results in the long term if you have friends. Who do you want to enjoy this journey with? Okay. Number 3 would be like their first workout. Hey, great job. You just finished taking the action that's actually going to be the first of many that gets you to your actual goals. Who else do you think would enjoy workouts like that with you, right? Once they achieve that first outcome, great. How have we helped you since getting that 20 pounds off? What do you think we did the best? Who else do you think would enjoy being helped in that way? And so we're, again, aligning the emotional journey that they're going on every time they achieve a new benchmark. That's when we go for the referral ask. But we do it in a way that puts them in a position of leadership, which cements their status now as being that person so that there's no risk of them going backwards. Really important to do because this is how you build the long-term value for a client and for the business where you can continue to reap the benefits of that first sale for years and years to come while maintaining good relationship, okay? Now, the wrong way people do this is they just say, hey, we'll pay you some money if you send us a referral, if they sign up, right? And it doesn't really work because people aren't incentivized. They are incentivized by monetarily, but they're not incentivized in terms of the journeys they're taking for money because now they feel like they're just out there as your little marketer, as your little billboard. And that's not what they want to do. If you put them in a position of leadership and you tie that leadership ask to the emotional highs that they experience based on the problems being solved that you're helping them with, that's what feels good for them. So that's how you can do it. And you can grow your business exponentially without a penny on ads if you do this right. Now, the last piece, the bonus, okay? Now I'm going to go quick. So this is kind of behind the curtains, right? So how do you take all these elements and put it into one structure that you can put into any coaching business, any sales conversation, and know you're going to be able to get the same outcomes? Well, this is the Conversuasion sales structure. And there's only 5 parts, okay? So you'll see different columns here with the different colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we're looking at is the simplest way for you to break down a sales structure, which can then be broken up into any process that you want. What I mean by that is, let's say if you have an online business and you want to do a 2-call process where you have like a little short call to understand if you can help somebody and what their problem is, and then you move into a longer sales call. Well, you can chunk up just the first couple parts of this on the first call, and then you can run the entire gamut on the sales call, right? And so there's a lot of different ways. Maybe you just want to do a 1 call and you're going to run through the whole thing in 1 call. Maybe you have several different steps because you're in a larger organization and it just takes more people to be involved, so you need to break it up over 5 calls. Doesn't matter. But the way that we do that, number 1, is we build relationship by engaging with that prospect, okay? We link up with them very much like your modem does to your computer, and that's the first stage. The second stage is going to be focusing. Focusing simply means out of the 10,000 things we can talk about, we're going to talk about 1, 2, 3 things here, okay? So we narrow their focus. The third piece, where most of the sale gets actually done, which is commonly and formally referred to as discovery, is what we call evoking. Right? Evoking, because what's most important is, again, throughout this whole process, remember, we need them to express and connect their own dots on their own problems, on what the solutions could do for them and what becomes possible. And that's what we do through evoking. Once we have all that done, then we move into the phases of planning. Now, planning is simply laying out the very specific sequence of events that they have to go through that equals the solution to solve their very specific problem. And what's nice about this is once you have, some of these conversations, what you understand is that you can simply take the things they're saying and you can put it into the structure so that it's a custom experience for them. And when they have a custom solution, it feels different and it aligns with paying a premium price because it's a very individualized approach. After that, all we have to do is overcome whatever barriers they feel are in place for taking action, and that's how we get them across the line. So if you have any questions for me on the conversation sales structure, anything on these shifts that maybe I've missed in the 500 hours I've been talking, reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Kyle Craft, and you can always shoot me an email, kyle@craftconsulting.co, and my direct cell, 608-335-2994. Happy to chat anytime. Cheers, guys.